What is up, everybody? I am back again for another Me, Myself, and Discoveries. Today is day 5, I think. So I am definitely on a high about how well I'm keeping up with this. So today I had some really good questions. And I actually had to ask James, because he's here today. I had to ask James, like, which one do you think would be a really good question for me to answer and really think about? And I'm trying to turn the light on in here because it was super dark. Okay, boom. So I was asking James today, like, out of these top 4 questions, which I'm not going to list all the questions today, but just know that the next couple of episodes I do of this, the questions are going to be lit. So, today's question was, how do I respond to myself when I have failed or made a mistake? And this question was actually out of all 4 questions chosen by James. And I kind of think I know why he chose that question. But since he's here, we're going to ask him, why did he want me to answer? Why did he think that was a good question for me to answer?
Ironically, that's why I just stood up, because she just had a moment.
So why did you
Because
choose that question for me to answer?
actually, I can give you a perfect example right now. Because I suggested that she use the exercise equipment over in the other side of the basement. Now, her response to that was, "You're saying that just for your own benefit." Now, my prior question to that was, "How would you using that benefit me?" And she was like, "Because you're close. Because if I stay close, I can do all this stuff around here myself." And I'm like, "That's not what I was implying at all." Which is still kind of weird to me, because based on the way she says she's changing, you should have gotten rid of that mindset. I mean, of course, it's not gonna happen overnight, but at the same time, it's like, that don't sit right with me for some reason. It's kind of creepy. But that's honestly one of the reasons, and peep how God works. I guess that's why that happened that way.
So you guys heard it from him. That's the reason why he felt like that is a question that I should sit down and think about. And I did. So let's get into what my response was. Okay. So from the time I could remember, the word can't was never allowed to be in my vocabulary. Like, my grandmother had like a little sign up in the house about the word can't, not being part of our vocabulary, because I can do anything that I put and set my mind to. I also used to think, because I was raised by a Caribbean family, my mother's side of the family is from Barbados. I always used to think, because of that, my expectations were a lot stricter and tougher compared to my American friends. I no longer think that today. I don't think that the expectations that I had as a kid has anything to do with my background, but I used to think that, because I felt like, I would see my American friends get a D and they'd be like, it is what it is. Where I'd be like, oh, nah, that's not what it is over here at my house. So, obviously right off the bat, I was expected to bring home straight A's and A pluses. And the only bad grade I was allowed to bring home was in math. And I never got lower than a D in math, which to me just, clarified that I was dumb in math, even with the tutors that my mother hired and stuff. And my mother never... Alright guys, I am sorry if it seems like I'm about to be repeating the same thing, because I ran out of space on my phone and I had to delete some shit so I could be able to say some shit, so I could be able to post this video. So I'm back again, and I kind of feel like I don't remember where I left off. I think I was talking about my failure in math and only being like, that was the only bad grade I was allowed to bring home. And yes, I did have tutorers, and yes, I still got a D, and I accepted that D stood for dummy in math, and my mother didn't argue about it, so I didn't argue about it. So it was very easy to accept that was like the one failure in life that I was going to have and was always going to have. I pretty much just did enough to be able to graduate. Boom. That's it. But moving on from that, because you get the point, can't wasn't in my vocabulary because I can and, will do everything I set my mind to. And I was expected to bring home straight A's, and I only was allowed one bad grade. And I pretty much kept up with that all the way up till probably like my 11th grade year in high school, but that's a different story. And yeah, I pretty much was the obedient child with a smart ass mouth, sometimes too smart for my own good. But other than that, I listened, I, kept up with all my expectations. So yes, that kind of gives you a background onto, where I was coming from to how I handle things today when I fail or make a mistake. Because I kind of feel like looking back, I wasn't really allowed to make a mistake. I was allowed one mistake. And as far as I'm concerned, if it wasn't mathematics, then I better be bringing home A's in every damn thing I do. So, with that being said, we're going to move on. I remember one time in college, I had to write an essay, and I just knew, I was like, word, I'm going to get an A on this because I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I've never failed English class, this A is going to be nothing, I could do this in my sleep. And I can't remember exactly what the assignment was, but I do remember that the paper was written on the one time me and my best friend at the time went behind our parents' backs. I mean, she probably wasn't going behind her mother's back. I know I definitely was. Going behind our parents' back to get our belly buttons pierced. And I was around 15 years old at the time, and yes, if you're thinking it is true, you're accurate. This was not being done by a professional at all. But I was 15 years old, and I felt like I was grown. And I really wanted my belly button pierced. And my mother wasn't having it. But anyway, that's also another story. But that's what the paper was written on. And, I just knew I was going to get an A until I didn't. I got my paper back, and I think it was a C-. I had a heart attack. I remember feeling confused, maybe nope, this grade can't be mine. Confused, denial, nope, this can't, I never, a C- paper in English, no. So I go up to the teacher, and I talk to her, and, I was like, all right, well, give me another shot. Let me do this paper again. So I did this paper 3 more times, and on the very last time, I stood up all night. Then literally had enough time to just wash my face and brush my teeth, throw on some clothes, and travel to school to give her this paper, and she refused to accept this paper. She still kept saying this paper was not good enough. So I'm not going to lie, I flipped out because at this point I am tired, I am stressed, I am feeling all these different emotions of how could I fail? How could I fuck up? There's no way. I followed your directions to a T. There's no way. This whatever your problem is, it has to be something that does not involve this paper that is a freaking A+. I just, lost my shit. No lie. So that ended me up in anger management with a counselor at the school that I was going to at the time. And, when I explained to her my side of the story and, how I ended up in this office with her and stuff like that, she asked to see the paper. She asked the teacher to send in exactly what she wanted, and the teacher did that, and I gave her all 3 of the papers. And her herself couldn't figure out why the teacher would not accept the paper, and was like, if I was the teacher, I would have gave you an A+, because this is a very well-written, put-together paper. this essay is perfect and it's exactly what she wanted you to do. So I don't understand why she didn't give it to you. And up to this day, I can't tell you why she never gave me that A plus. But let me tell you something. I will never forget it. Never. And I'm 28 years old now. So, that was kind of back then. But now I would have to say, like, when I, like, make a mistake on something, depending on what it is, and I actually did not write this in my journal, but there are times where if I make a mistake on something, I own up to it. All right, my bad. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have handled it that way. My fault. I own up to it. There's other times, depending, like I said, on what the situation is, I allow myself a pity party, and it sucks because then I shut down. I don't want to eat. I don't want to drink. I don't want to be social. I don't want to be bothered. Like, I just want to sit here and not love myself at the moment because I messed up and I can't understand how, why, when, where, how. Like, I just can't. Like, I just want to sit here and not love myself. I want to sit here and overthink, how it could have went better, what I could have done differently, how the hell what I did in the first place just didn't work. Like, I want to overthink it and overstress it and overwhelm myself and, knock down my self-confidence. Like, I just allow the full-blown pity party for the day. Sometimes, depending on how serious it is, how important it is to me, it might be like a couple of days of a pity party where I'm just like, I failed. I fucked up. I'm no good. I'm not perfect. And I know perfection is not a real word, right? They say that. Perfect is not a real word. Perfection is not a real thing. Everybody has their flaws, and I understand that. Like, I have my flaws too. I have no problem admitting that. Like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but, coming to a point of I can't do something, that never sits well with me. Or I don't see how I can get it done. It just doesn't sit well with me because I was not raised to understand anything other than I can do and I will do and it will get done or accomplished. I was raised, on the never give up. So, that ties into, my whole never giving up, never knowing when to walk away, never knowing when to call it quits. And then
Now
just
you sound like me.
And just not knowing when to let go, which I feel like is a strength and a weakness all in one, depending on what the situation is, because certain things you do need to learn how to let go and you do need to learn how to walk away from, and it does not mean that you failed it. Like a relationship, for example, if I walk away from a relationship, it doesn't mean that I failed at that relationship. It just means that relationship was not for me. It does not mean that I failed that friendship or that person as a friend. It just means that, we're going down two different paths. And, sometimes I think that it's hard to differentiate when you're supposed to let go and when you're supposed to give up, especially when you've been brought up to never give up, So, I don't know if that like fully answers the question. I feel like it does, but it kind of opened my eyes today to see like, just like I said the other day, like I need to learn how to just let shit go because there are some things that it's not worth the pity party. It's not worth me tearing down my self-confidence. It's not even worth me considering it to be something that I failed or that I couldn't do. It's just I needed to let it go. Like it wasn't healthy. It was toxic or whatever. And then there are other things where the pity party is, in my opinion, it's worth it. But like I said, you have that pity party for the day or for a couple of days and then you get back up and you try it again differently. Because what I have discovered while writing this prompt was, sorry, someone texted me and I was trying to swipe it. But what I have discovered while writing this prompt is you may have failed at doing one thing one way, but there may be another way that you can do it and accomplish it. You know, sometimes you got to try one thing 1,000 different ways before you succeed. And I'm now realizing that after writing and coming on camera and talking about it with you guys, that just because you fail one way, that doesn't mean that you failed at the task. It just means that you got to try again a different way. And you keep trying until you get it. So I'm going to, once again, something I had to call myself out on, thanks to this writing and thanks to talking to you guys. I'm going to really, really try to apply that to 2020. You know, if I come across a bump in the road, I'm not going to give up. You know, I might have a pity party for one day, but then I'm going to get right back up and be like, I did it this way yesterday and I failed, but I'm going to do it this way today and see if I can succeed. Because there's more than one way to do things. So I'm going to really try to apply that to myself this year for 2020. I hope that this video has taught other people things the way it's taught me things. And hopefully that's something that you can also apply to your 2020. If it's something you don't need to apply to your 2020, kudos to you. Teach me your ways. Because I definitely, you know, I need help in that. I need help in understanding that I'm just not going to get everything right the first time I do it. Or I'm not going to accomplish everything the first moment that I think about it. Like the book that I'm writing my daily answers in, I had a whole business plan in that book for an indoor daycare. And I don't really remember what stopped me, why I didn't pursue it. But there's a whole damn business plan there. And maybe if I would have pursued it, or I didn't get frustrated or whatever happened during that journey, maybe I would not be just doing a job right now. Maybe I wouldn't just be heading into a job right now. So, you know, I guess that's a learning lesson within itself, isn't it? But, yeah, I think that that's the answer to the question. That's how I deal with not being perfect or making a mistake. Like, I remember, and I still do this today too. I remember when I used to write on paper and pencil, and I would make a mistake. Simple mistake. I would erase it, and you know how sometimes you could still see the mistake you made even though you erased it? I would crumble up the whole paper and throw it away, because then to me that paper was a mistake and it was no good. Waste a whole piece of paper. Yes, I know you people who try to save the earth and the planet are probably having an attack right now. But it was a habit that I had from the time I was a kid. And I think that that speaks volumes on how I handle things today. Because like I said, sometimes I still do it. Just because I could still see the mistake even after erasing it, I just think the paper is no good. And I toss it out. And I start over again. I don't know where I developed that habit from. It's just something I do. But I felt like that kind of was the best way to explain how I deal with making a mistake or feeling like I fail at something. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that pretty much wraps up this video for today. Unless, James, do you have anything you want to say?
No, not at the moment.
All right, so James has nothing else that he wants to add to this video. This is the wrap up of today's Me, Myself, and Discoveries. So, bye! Oh, also, subscribe. Subscribe, hit the bell, share these videos, and come back again tomorrow because there'll be another video tomorrow. All right, officially, bye!